Goldylocks Productions broadcasts universal cosmic frequencies that unlock, awaken, and expand the consciousness of our worldwide viewers and listeners.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Enjoy the Goldylocks Productions presentation of the In the Psychic Flow Show with Carolan Carey.
Hey everyone, welcome to In the Psychic Flow. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. We have a wonderful guest with us, a special guest, Jane Doherty, Psychic Jane Doherty, who is quite an interesting individual that I met. I had the pleasure of meeting her several years ago in New Jersey when I had a small shop in New Jersey. Jane's website is janedoherty.com. What's so fascinating about Jane, besides the fact that she has probably, I would say by now, a 30-year career in psychic work. She was a skeptic, and she went from skeptic to being one of the nation's leading authorities on psychic experiences. She is one of America's top 20 psychics. She is an author of Awakening the Mystic Gift, The Surprising Truth About What It Means to Be a Psychic. So she is completely self-taught. She's been on over 300 radio shows, and she co-hosted a psychic call-in show for about 8 years. She's been on TV on the Learning Channel, Dead Tenants, one of my favorites, Dead Famous, Sightings, Jenny Jones Show, Ghost Stories on the Biography Channel. She also starred alongside Christopher Atkins in a 2013 movie. What was it? No, that's not it. Amy. She could see the possessed. So here is Jane. Welcome, Jane.
Hi, how are you? Glad to be on with you.
I'm so glad to have you. It's been almost a year because it popped up on my Facebook page. And it was so funny. We were just talking about you. I was talking to Tiffany, our producer, about you. And she said, oh, yeah, that would be great to have Jane on again. And I have seen Jane. She is one of the guardians of 2 crystal skulls. She is the guardian of 2 crystal skulls, which we're going to get into more. And she pioneered so many things, one of which was public seances and ghost tours. So she really introduced the anxious and scared public to what is behind the veil. And I think you are one of the first to do that. Mm-hmm. It's just a fascinating career. She even had a one-day off-Broadway show, Ghost Stories and Connecting with Spirits and More, Oh My. And she is the president of the Jersey Society of Parapsychology. You just have an astounding array of abilities here. And there is more. Please check out janedoherty.com, because I'm sure I just kind of Evelyn Wooded that through there because it's such an extensive history. I don't think anyone, Jane, has the credentials or accolades that you have. I haven't heard of anyone.
There's a lot that I do. I'm in the field more than 30 years.
Yeah.
I even have my name engraved in cobblestone in San Diego. It says Ghostbuster Jane Doherty slept here, and the date.
Cool.
So
that is so awesome. That is.
So that's very unusual to have something like that. But
yeah. So to me, when I met you, you came wandering into my store, in my little store in New Jersey, and you expressed an interest. We were chatting, and you expressed an interest in going to see one of the crystal skulls in New York at the Learning Center. And I knew nothing. I sold books and made coffee. That's it. I didn't know anything about anything. So I have to say that all those years ago, that was what, 1993, 95, something like that.
Long time ago.
So you really introduced me to so many things that I never thought I'd be doing this. So, and reading your book helped so tremendously to go from a skeptic. And I want to talk about that as well. So whatever you feel like spending time on or speaking about, we'd love to hear from you. So would you like to talk about the crystal skulls while it's on your fresh in your brain?
Yeah, we could talk
Okay.
about that. And I think
So
that
we took the train from New Jersey into New York to see Max.
yes, it was Max, the ancient crystal skull.
Now, for people who are not aware of these are one of the larger, what would you say, original skulls?
Yes, there's two types that you have. You have the big ones, which are ancient, and then you have the smaller ones, like I have of Maya, this size,
Okay.
as you could see. But there's another small one that I have. So these are the smaller ones. Supposedly are more of what were personal to the Mayans, and that they would go out every night at sunset and pray to the gods and present the skulls, and using that to make a connection to the gods. And the large one, which Max is, was used more into the rituals of the group, the Mayans. Like they may put it on an altar and have somebody speak through it, or do something with the skull to direct the energy to the peoples that are there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference between the sizes, but they are ancient. The ones that I have and that she has, and there's several, but we went to see Max. That was the first ancient skull experience that I had.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. And there were a lot of people there. It was a small, dark room.
Yes. And she had Max in the center. And you couldn't touch Max. You have to go and sort of like kneel in front of it. So I took my Maya with me in a case. I didn't take her out. I had her all wrapped up in a velvet cloth. Mm-hmm. And when I knelt down to Max, I started to talk to Max, communicate, and talking about Maya and if the two of them would communicate. And, of course, I didn't get any communication per se, but, I felt the energy. But what was interesting, when I got home that night and I unraveled the velvet cloth that I had Maya wrapped in, there was the impression of the face of Maya on there.
Wow.
So the energy that came from Max and Maya, I guess, going back and forth, it actually imprinted the face on velvet cloth.
Now, do you think, or do you know, are these crystal skulls like Max, are they actually etched with some kind of knowledge or?
Yes, your crystal acts like a computer. Mm-hmm. So there is supposed to be ancient knowledge in here. Also, the knowledge of the Mayans and others that had them would deposit them in there. Let's say your shaman, I forgot he would be called a shaman too in the Mayan culture. What would happen, let's say if he was dying, he would choose somebody to take over, and that second person would be lying down next to him, and the shaman would be holding the skull, so that the information was transferred to the new person who was going to take over.
Okay.
So they have a lot of knowledge in them.
So do you think I'm sorry, go ahead.
So it's supposedly at some time, and I think we're near something now, there will be a decoding of this information.
Okay.
Is what?
Do you think that your skull got some of the download from Max?
It's possible. I didn't think about it at that time because I didn't take her out, but I guess I felt they communicated, is what I felt, is that the energy between the two of them communicated. It was sort of like a recognition by Max, because then it may have been the first ancient skull that Max was with. And there may have been a communication that would be through energy.
Okay. And how did you, I know that you have spoken at several conferences all over regarding the crystal skulls. How did you come in possession? Were you chosen to be a guardian?
Okay, what happened is, oh, let's see. It may have been I'm trying to think of the date now, 1988, I guess.
Wow.
It's like I separated from my husband. It was 1987, I think. I separated from my husband, so I went on a trip, a self-awareness trip down in California, and then I extended it to Mexico.
Okay.
So I happened to be looking in a store for some souvenir to take home with me. And it was just all this chachi stuff. So I went, I'm not going to get it. And then all of a sudden I felt energy, and it made me go to a glass case, and it was locked up. And on top of it was, it said artifacts. And I went nuts. It was the 2 crystal skulls. There was a 2 Black Panther statues, also a Quetzalcoatl pendant that was in the form of a snake.
Wow.
I bought everything. I just bought everything. And I had no idea why. It's just that I went crazy when I saw them. But it took me a while before I realized I had an ancient skull. I didn't know right away. And then I started to read a book about them. And then I started to play around with it. And my first experience scared me, and I put it away for a while. I had it on my dresser, and I would put my hands over it. And I just started meditating and kind of communicating. And what happened, the skull actually moved on its own on my dresser. And that was it. I said to myself, all right, I don't know what I'm doing yet. It was like frightening to see this skull actually just start moving, like almost in a scallop kind of formation.
And you hadn't written your book or anything at this point yet. So you were.
Right. I was, budding psychic at that point, where I wasn't doing readings that long. I was just allowing myself to start. And it was interesting because, let's see if I have that hand. I don't know if I have that handy where it is. I should have had that out too. Darn. What's interesting is I have a stone that I was using at the time that has a face in it. And what was interesting is that when I came back with the skulls and I put it near the stone, then what happened in about a week, I hadn't checked it. And then when I went to check it, there was actually a face that formed in the stone.
Wow.
So I knew there was something going on at the time. And
now, with these, are they responsible, these crystal skulls? Could they be responsible for not just that passing on knowledge and energy, but like healing maybe?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. It can create healing energy. And I've used it for that. Actually, a couple of things happened where I actually did it on radio, and I was doing a psychic call-in show, and a mother called in whose son was going to go through brain surgery. And naturally she was scared. So I took the skull and I sent the energy to the son and said that he would be fine. There would be no complications, and it would turn out better than she thought. Well, I did get a call in about, I guess the surgery was, and about 2 weeks later, she contacted the radio station, and there were no complications, and he got well so fast they couldn't figure it out, the doctors.
That's beautiful.
So there's that. And then another time I was doing, because I use them in my readings.
Okay.
They're present in my readings. So I was doing a reading on a girl who, she was a young girl. She was maybe in her early 40s, and she had a stroke. And so she wasn't going to be able to go to work. So I'm holding her hands and I'm doing the reading, and my hand is on, Maya. And all of a sudden, I start shaking. And I knew enough to say, just hold my hands, just stay right with me. And I feel that this was healing energy coming in. And then at the end of it, I said to her, just stay positive. What happened? She went to the doctor the next day, 2 days later, because it was a Saturday this happened. She went on Monday for the final MRI before she got disability. And he took it, and the doctor looked, and he said, oh, my God, I don't believe this. And she says, what? What happened? Did it get bigger? He says, bigger. It's no longer there. And any evidence that she had a stroke.
Wow.
And so she said, well, what do I do now? He says, and he took 3 to make sure. And he says, you're cured. Go to work.
Wow.
It's a lot of power. Mine seems, because mine's smaller, it seems to work with me. It seems to be that I can direct energy with it. And so it becomes powerful that way. And that's how I've used it.
Do you feel that it is, it feels like it has its own personality, I would imagine.
Absolutely. It has its own personality. The big one, you know, bigger than my small one, Maya here, it's a female. It's definitely a female. And it was named that because in 1995, I think it was, I went to Mexico to the pyramids, and I took Maya with me, although I didn't have her name at that point. And it was a ceremony that I went to, a special 500 people were all dressed in white. We were opening up the energy of the pyramids because they were closed to the Mayans. These were the Mayan descendants. Oh. And so I had her there. And so what happened is he was a photographer, reporter, and he said, you have to name her. And he said, I didn't know, it was like very unusual for me. So he says, well, why don't you name her Maya? Because we're in Maya land. So that's how she became Maya.
That's beautiful.
And the little one was named Alden, after my friend who had taken me to this Mexican ceremony. Well, I would have never been able to afford it back then because it was expensive. And, it was an incredible experience. So that's how they really got totally activated.
So you had them when you started to research. I guess at that point, I couldn't call you a skeptic anymore. I guess maybe you were curious at that point.
Yes, I was curious. I mean, I had already developed the psychic ability. I was already, the skepticism was going away because I realized there was a lot more going on out there that I didn't know. And so I decided to research about the skulls because I had them. I got curious. I saw a book, and that's how I started to do it.
If you, God forbid, when your time comes, who would take your skulls and watch them?
My daughter.
Oh, your daughter.
Yeah. Usually you should, if you have descendants, you should pass it on to them.
Okay.
But it would be my daughter. I've let her handle it over the years. So it would be her, definitely. And it's done a lot of things. It's even turned pink.
Wow.
When I was in front of the White Buffalo in Janesville, Wisconsin. And what had happened when I was on a lecture tour there, I didn't get to go see the White Buffalo. And then a few months later, I got the opportunity with my daughter to go visit her girlfriend in Chicago. So I said, we got to go to Janesville, Wisconsin. So they went with me, and it was cold. It was like late November. We had coats on, and I'm in front of the White Buffalo. Now, the White Buffalo is a theory in the prediction in the Lakota tribe that when a white buffalo was born, it was the time of the ending and then the new beginning. Like mankind was going to finally become positive and all of that. So, and there was a lot more to it. So I decided that I was going to hold Maya in front of the buffalo, and I was staring right into his eyes.
Wow.
Trying to communicate. And I close my eyes, and I'm asking him to give me a sign that that's what he represents, that it's true. And then all of a sudden, my daughter and her friends start screaming because the skull turned pink, and my hands were like so hot, and it was like 30 degrees out.
Wow.
So he turned pink, and they also witnessed it. So I got my sign that it was truth.
That's beautiful. Did you, as you researched your book I guess that would be a little bit prior, did you include information about the skulls? You didn't. You just worked.
No, I did it. No, I did it just solely on the psychic part. I know I have to write more. I'm trying to do so many things that I'm trying to create courses now to put online to do. And I've done a book on intuition, but we don't have it out there yet.
Okay.
I'm doing like an ebook on the Lizzie Borden story, my experience there. And I really need to do one on the crystal skull and the experiences and everything I had with that. But it takes time to write, because if you're doing readings, you know, and you're doing other things, it's hard to just focus. You're like all over. And when you write, you need to be focused just on that project.
Right. I agree. Yeah.
So that you can focus. But I think that the interest in the crystal skulls is coming back. It's waned for a while. And I think it's because of 2012 and that the Mayan calendar didn't end. And it tied in at that point with the Mayan calendar. That's when we were having the conferences in 3 different, each year, the 999, the 10-10-10, the 11-11-11, and the 12-12-12. So we've done that. You know, like in the Miami Circle is when we did the 12-12-12.
Cool.
But then I did go to Mexico in 2013 into Teotihuacan. I never get it right. It's outside of Mexico City. And we had special permission. I took the skull inside where they had found an archaeological dig, and they found all these gold, different kinds of things. So the archaeologists who were there, they took my skull and put them in the cave for a while, for about an hour. So so it absorbed that energy. It was quite interesting.
Do you know the origin of your skulls? Do you know where they originally came from?
Originally, what is thought that they come from Atlantis.
Ah, okay.
Atlantis was a time when it was a crystal society, and they used crystal all the time for various things. So when it fell apart, these skulls were transported, and the knowledge was put in there.
Awesome.
And then a lot of your Mayans were from Atlantis. They were the survivors of Atlantis. So that's where. And why they be coming out now is because a lot of us are reincarnated from the time of Atlantis.
Okay.
And if you want to know for sure, just look on the palm of your hand and see if you can see an M in the etchings on either one of your palms. That's a sign of Atlantis, that you have the life of Atlantis.
Okay.
So we're coming full circle. We're incarnated now for a reason. It has to do with Atlantis and for UFOs.
Okay.
What they say, what happens with the ancient skulls, if you take a picture of it, what happens is, you won't see it when you're taking the picture, but then in the picture, what forms is a UFO. And I'm going to hold this up, how clearly you're going to see it. But if
I can see
you look at it, you will see that it looks almost as though there is a UFO in there.
Yep, I can see it. I remember coming back from New York on the train with you, and you were talking about UFOs. And the only thing I knew about, the closest thing I knew about was the Jetsons. I didn't know anything about UFOs. So that was fascinating. And I thought, either this lady really knows a lot or she's nuts, you know? And at that time, I didn't know that how well known you were because you're just such a regular, humble person. I had no idea. I mean, I didn't know who's who. It wasn't until probably after I left New Jersey that I was like, darn, that Jane Doherty is known all over the place. And I went to New York with her. So it was actually, thank you so much for being my first inspiration. I have to say that to you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. I'm happy.
And I so enjoyed your book so much, Awakening the Mystic Gift, because, and I remember talking to you about this, how you interviewed or you had so many readings with people that were supposed to be good in their field, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some I think were, you felt were legit.
Yes.
Or you were kind of feeling the situation out. You want to talk about that? What is it like?
What's it like to what?
What was it like to be read by so many people?
It
was
very, very interesting because that's my research project, because that's when I was a skeptic. So I really didn't believe, but I became curious when I saw a psychic fair at the Menlo Park Mall.
Okay.
I mean, people were lining up for readings. And so that's how I got curious. And, you know, I sat down with one of them and she told me that I was going to be a famous psychic someday. And I just denied it. I just said, oh, this is bullshit. You know, and I wouldn't listen. I got up at the end of it and said, this is ridiculous. And then I went home and maybe 6 months later, you know, the fair came back again. And I decided that, you know what, I'm going to go again. I'm going to go and see. And that's how the research started. And as I went to each one, they were all telling me the same thing. And actually one of them actually saw the first show I was going to be on was going to be NBC. And that is the first television show I was on. I was on the Steve Ducci show. I forgot what the name of it was, but he was the host. So after going to so many saying the same thing, I decided the only way to prove or disprove what they were saying was to attempt to develop it. And that's what I set out to do, but never intended to do readings. I was a high school teacher at one time. So my desire was to find out, is this real or not? How do the psychics do it? And I never intended to do readings. I intended to teach about it.
Okay.
But not to do readings. You know, it was just something, but it just happened. I kind of was forced in it because I was doing hypnosis at the time. So people started to, well, can't you give me a reading? And that's how it started. And I would really go home, stamp my feet, tell my kids, why can't it be a hypnosis client? And they would look at me and say, well, Ma, you are a psychic. And I'd say, yeah, I know, but I don't want this responsibility. It's an awesome responsibility.
I understand that.
Guiding a person's life, and they're making decisions based on what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So it's an awesome responsibility.
Yes, it is. You've also been in the New York Times, CNN, Fox News Network, Routers, and the Today Show.
Yes.
And over 300 radio shows. So what does that say to you? I feel that going from a skeptic to one of the most sought after psychics, I would say, in the world. I know you're one of the top 20 in America, but you must be like the top 2. You must be, you're world renowned. So how does that feel going from skeptic to this? What does that feel like?
It's an incredible journey. It gives me a lot of peace within myself, you know, that I started this research project and have discovered that it is true. And I look at it in a very different way because I was very religious. And the way I view it is everybody has this ability. The seeds of psychic ability are there. And I feel it is a God-given gift for everyone. And the reason to open it up is so that you can be guided by the other side. Because to me, how many times we pray, but how do we know if our prayers are answered or not? Or how do we know if we didn't follow something that came as a signal and follow that it would lead us to getting our prayers answered? So I feel this is very connected to God, this ability to the other side in guiding us here.
Are you able to, can you blend like your prior religious beginnings? Can you blend that now with what you do?
Yes, I definitely can. I don't have any problem with it because one, if you look at the Bible, I would be considered one of the seers or prophets because I don't use cards. I do it all actually saying a prayer to God and getting that and asking for the guidance, to come through to guide a person. Also, I've had two experiences with priests. One was I was at the Spy House Museum. That's where I was doing ghost tours, and a priest came. And he started talking to me, and then he asked me if I would give him a reading. Well, now I'm shaking in my pants.
Yeah.
Saying, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I took him outside and I did the reading on him. And what happened is he thanked me. He gave me a hug and he said, you are my sign from God. Because as a result of what I said, he was going to stay in the priesthood. And he was questioning certain things. And I don't remember exactly what I said to him, but that happened. And then years later, my own priest here in town, my daughter was going to baptize my niece, but she had never received her confirmation due to circumstances of divorce and all that at the time. So I went to our priest to see if she could get it. The bishop was coming. And he said yes, because he knew I was religious. He knew my mother. And then he asked me the question. He said, do you still do what you do? Oh, I'm saying, oh my God, I can't believe this. My mother's going to kill me. I'm going to be excommunicated from the church because of this. And I said, you mean the psychic and the ghost work? And he said, yes. I said, yes, I do, Father. And he said, he's followed me over the years, all the newspaper articles. And then he told me, he says, this is your calling. He says, somebody has to do this.
That's right.
And like, with the spirit world, like releasing the ghosts and things like that and helping people. He says, somebody has to do it. He says, this is your calling. And he says, keep up the good work. I was astounded. That was my last sign because I was struggling with my Catholic religion and that I was doing that. It was just that. And when that happened, I completely, let go of any fear. And I knew this is what I was supposed to be doing. And I accepted it.
That's beautiful. What a great confirmation. That is fabulous. One of my favorite, I've seen you at a seance. I attended a seance that you led. That was excellent. I went to New York with you. I went to the governor's mansion and brought a friend, and you led ghost tours there. Very interesting. And that was the first time I saw your stomach expand. Now that's nobody else has this.
Oh.
I mean, this has to be a sign, Jane.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell our audience, I can say from my observing you that your stomach expands when you are communicating with spirit. Is that how it works?
It will expand when I do a ghost investigation and spirit is near. And in seances, it will do the same thing as I get near spirit, as a spirit comes in. And it's been measured to expand anywhere from 3 to 5 inches. So
it's noticeable.
Yes. It's a crazy, crazy thing. And it does hurt. People ask me, does it hurt? Yes, of course it hurts. There's a muscular thing going on. And it's like having a baby and you're in some sort of a contraction when it's going on. So it is, and I can actually tell when I'm doing, like say, a ghost investigation, or even in a seance, it'll come through if it's a child or a male or a female based on the way it grips me.
That's amazing.
So it's been a very reliable tool, for that. And now what's happening because of COVID, I haven't been able to do many in-person seances, but I've been doing them online on Zoom.
Yes.
And I was afraid to do it. It was my son that was yelling at me last September, "Come on, Mom, you can do this." But I was reluctant. And I finally convinced me. And I find what's interesting is that it works extremely well. And I figured out the reason why is because my concentration gets keener, because there's no disruption of energy. When you're in the seance, I have to adjust everybody's energy in order to get the flow of energy going. Because people have different levels of vibration and different energy fields. Somebody's strong, somebody's weak. So I always have to adjust that. And when I'm doing a Zoom seance, I don't have to do that. And I can concentrate better because there's no distraction. Nobody is moving. There's all these little things that go on that you don't realize goes on.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is my stomach doesn't go out. However, on occasion when I'm doing it on a Zoom seance, it's gone out here. A person on Zoom, they've had they felt their presence of a spirit, and then my stomach reacted. So it still does it, just not as much as it is in person.
Now you do that. You make the announcements for that on Facebook, correct? On your seances.
I have the next one coming up is next Thursday.
Next Thursday. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one of these Thursdays I will join you.
So if anybody is interested, I still have a few spots left.
That's great.
Go to my Facebook page and send me a message, and then I'll get back to them. It's $40 for the seance. What's good about the Zoom seance is because I'm having people now who would never be able to reach me because they don't live in New Jersey.
Right.
I've had people on from Florida, from Arizona, from Montana, from Wisconsin, from California. So it's cool for that reason, from Texas. These are people I'd never be able to reach.
Right.
So I find that to be so beneficial that you can have people from all over the United States in the seances.
And it's I've attended it in person. It's fabulous.
So,
and they're usually totally booked. Your work is amazing. You also have some other classes you're developing on your website for those that I stole the psychic boot camp idea from you. I taught it a couple of years here in Sarasota. And people really enjoyed it. I'm sure it's nowhere near as complete as yours. Do you want to talk about that and what you're offering?
What I'm doing, I had started in person of doing the first group that I would take them through several levels to be able to then give them a certificate of so many hours of training. But then because of COVID, I wasn't able to go further. So now what I'm doing is taking it and converting it more to something I can do on Zoom. And then I'll be offering it the different levels on Zoom and go right into mediumship, but starting off with, beginning with the intuition and developing psychic ability and, how it, predicting the future, and then right into mediumship.
Fabulous. And do you explain to people? I get what you're saying. That's how I would teach it too. I went right into mediumship. I'd never done any psychic work. I didn't realize I was psychic until I started taking that. But the way that I would have taught it, and I have taught some stuff this way, is from, basic psychic boot camp, learning about auras, about, about the tools, if you want to use tarot or pendulums and that kind of stuff, into maybe beginning mediumship, and then into the trance circle kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? That's how I would do it. So I'm so glad to hear How many levels to your classes do you have? I mean, I guess you could keep going, right?
Yes. I have probably about a good 30 hours of material, that teaching, and probably can go up even more, because then I would actually do circles and have them practice and certain things like that. So it would go even further.
Wow.
So there's a lot, because it would be comprehensive, because I know so much about it, because you start from the beginning. And I prefer teaching people from that level. I don't like teaching people to go right into mediumship.
I agree.
Because they don't have the experience of being able to interpret, and just to have all that knowledge, more, because you can get into trouble if you go right into mediumship. And I've had to deal with a few people who contacted me from other states who got into trouble. And then they opened it up without any filters, and they were hearing voices all the time. And what people don't realize, that there's a fine line between psychic ability and mental illness. You can go into a mental hospital, and you're going to find a lot of people talking, and they are giving you information that can very much be real. And what happens if you go, and that happened to one girl, she just kept trying and trying and trying. And I talked to her once, and she didn't listen. And I warned her, and then she called me in hysterics, because what happened is she couldn't get the voices out of her head.
Mm.
That was it. The spirits took over. And I guess it was somebody came to her house, a relative who, had negative vibes. It was, something, and that just threw it. That just, boom. She was now possessed, and it was terrible. It was terrible. And I had to try all kinds of things to get it calmed down. And I said, you can't go near any of this. You can't meditate, nothing. You have to just shut yourself down, because it will cause mental illness. So, you do have to be careful. So I always teach this with filters. And my feeling is, spirits are like errant children. They need to be disciplined. So I never allow a spirit to come unless I'm prepared. Like if they start randomly coming to me when they want to, I will not pay attention to them, because that will get into trouble. You should only do it when you're into your, like, I have a psychic mode that I call. So there's a certain thing I do to get myself down and into that concentration mode to be able to predict the future. It's the same thing when I'm doing spirit communication, whether it's in a seance or whether it's in a reading. Again, there's a certain ritual that I'm doing and following. So I only allow it when I do that. And I always say a prayer before, non-denominational prayer.
Great instruction there, Jane. Thank you. I totally agree. And that's what keeps you sane and on the right side of it. And then you're doing the work.
Yes.
You're doing you have to allow the spirit world to know your boundaries, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That
is fascinating.
You can't just let it open without you being in control of it. People get fascinated, and they want, especially with the spirit world, they get, so fascinated, they just want to do it. But there's things you have to put in place so that you do everything safely.
When you do like as I watch you in Dead Tenants, was such a fascinating show, where you went at different locations. Fascinating. Do you prepare differently for that than you would like for a private reading?
Yes, I'm going to, when I did Dead Tenants, I wasn't told anything about the house that I was going to.
Right.
So that it all came from psychically what I perceived and the communication that I did. So that would be one. And then two, of course, I still say my prayer, I before I'm going. And of course, I always have the skulls with me. I would have it in a case that I would take with me when I did it, although people didn't see it, but I would have it in like a pocketbook type of thing.
It's amazing. What some of the fascinating, I watched some fascinating shows with you, and you've done many doing that spot on. How does that feel being on camera doing that? Does that feel unnatural? Does it bother you? Do you think, oh, I'm not getting anything? Does it put an awkwardness on it?
You know, actually, I have such a good degree of concentration that I get greater when I'm under pressure. Because you're going deeper into concentration and you're getting there quicker. Mm-hmm. So the camera never bothered me. In fact, you know, I would just not even look at it. You know, I would ignore that I'm on camera. So, and I can just forget that. And it probably came from being on radio so much or some of the other shows. But my degree in college was theater arts, speech and theater arts.
Perfect.
So although I never taught a day of that, I taught high school English, I was prepared for this other thing in my life. So I would give speeches all the time, and I was on the debate team. So there was certain things you just had to ignore. You had to perform.
Right.
And not pay any attention to the media. So it never bothered me. I'm lucky.
That's amazing. You know, I love the way the spirit world uses us. You think you're going one way with these tools in your toolbox, right? Yep. And you end up going somewhere else. Wherever you can serve humanity, I think.
Exactly.
It is absolutely beautiful. What are you looking forward to doing now? I mean, it's hard to imagine there's anything left for you to do because you've done it all. You're going to write another book.
I'm going to write another book.
You're going to do at least one, maybe two.
Yes.
You're going to do some more teaching. What else do you think?
I'm going to do the psychic development, every level, so I can offer that. And I'm actually doing I'm going to start it in about a week and a half on Facebook. I'm going to be offering for $5.99 a half hour of relaxation once a week, because I also do hypnosis. And during time, so it'll be meditation. During the time of COVID, I spent at least 6 months every week going on and calming the people.
Yes, I would imagine so.
Get them, to get calm and relaxed. So I'm going to be doing that. I also am setting up a ghost tour, and I haven't done one in about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
So there's a new one that I'm going to be doing. Do you remember the old Terry Lou Zoo?
Yes. Why does that sound familiar? Yes. Is it by Plainfield or Piscataway?
Yeah, it's right off of Raritan Road.
Okay.
Like from South Plainfield going Maple Avenue, and you just go straight down, and the Terry Lou Zoo used to be all the way down to the left. Well, that is also a historical building that was built in the 1700s. Cornwallis was there.
Wow.
So,
I did not know that.
Yes. So there's a lot of this there. And so they contacted me, and I did a ghost investigation there. The house is small, but it's interesting. 2 of the previous women are there because there's been like 3 different types of families. So it's, the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s.
Oh.
And there's about 6 spirits outside on the grounds. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to actually be doing a ghost walk to the different areas, and people will see my stomach go out. And I'll be talking a little bit about the history and more. And then I'm also going to be doing like random readings.
Okay.
Like, when we're assembled and I'm talking, then at the end, I'm going to do some random readings for people.
Is that going to be filmed, Jane?
No. If I had somebody to do it, that's always been my problem. I never have anybody to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. And by the time I do that, my son is going to be moving to Alabama, so he may not even be around. So, yeah, it would be great if somebody could. It's an idea.
Well, let's put the feelers out for that, because I'd love to see it. That would be so fascinating. Something else to add to the many videos that you have.
Right.
Of all of the work. Um, also, like, you have a fascination with. We didn't talk a lot about the UFOs, but since there's information coming out currently, what do you think of that?
Oh, I believe I've had UFO encounters. So
That's right. You talked about that.
I've always believed in it. And also the crystal skulls to me are related to that. One of the things that I channeled in a trance channel years ago, holding the skull, is that one of the purposes of the skull is the fact that when more come out and people get comfortable with it, which is what's happened, it would be a sign for the UFOs to be able to come, because they know that people would start to believe, and it would be safe for them to come. They wouldn't come before because it would cause such panic, and people would, trample, there could be a lot of things that go on, but this was their clue when there was enough people, interested in the crystal skulls, having them, the modern ones, and that would be their clue to come, to get ready.
Do you think that we're being told, I get the impression they're just scratching the surface in the news about this, like they're just little drips. I'm sure there's way more to come out. More encounters. What were yours like? Were you frightened? Were you enlightened? How did you feel about it?
I had two. One of them, I actually had to be regressed to find out what happened.
Oh.
I was teaching a course at Broadway High School on stress management and paranormal. I had two courses.
Oh, okay.
And I came out and I was talking to the students. And then when I left, I found myself on a street that they tell me I would have had to make 6 turns to get there, like coming out of a trance. And I saw that there was about a half an hour to 40 minutes of missing time from when I started out. And then I came in the house and I said to my son, I had a very strange experience. So he figured it was a ghost experience. And then somebody called me and I talked to them. And the next day I called them back and said, I'm sorry, I didn't talk to you last night. And of course I had found out that I did. So what it did, I was in this state that wasn't completely out. It was a positive experience when I was regressed, and they actually gave me a place in New York where there was going to be a problem. I need to go back to it. It may have been the towers.
Oh,
because they said about the crumbling. I mean, this was many years early that it happened. And then what they did was put energy into me. And it was right after that my stomach started.
Oh, okay.
So they put energy in me so that the way they explained it, so that when I met people, my energy would affect them and they wouldn't have to take me up. It would start a chain of something. And over the years, it's interesting. When I taught the adult school, the big thing was I need my Jane fix. That's what they would tell me. People would notice the energy, especially when I'm teaching a course. And even on the courses I've taught online, they start to feel the same thing. That they're looking forward to it. It's the energy. It's not just my energy. It's whatever they've done. Energy comes out of me. So it was not a real frightening experience. At first it was when I did the regression, because they strapped me down and put something over my head. And there was a tall one and then there was a short one. And there was, that type of thing. The second experience was in the early 2000s, sometime there. So it was maybe around 2006, something like that, 2005. And I'm driving on 78. And on the way there, I'm talking and I'm saying, I haven't seen you in an awful while. I had the one encounter and nothing. So I said, I need to see to believe. So here I am talking to them and saying, I really need to see you again. So I went and I did my psychic party. I was dealing with somebody from Las Vegas who was calling me because they were trying to get the Cuban dancers over, and I'm giving them psychic instructions.
Oh.
It was wild what was going on. They got them over, but it was wild what was going on, this reading. And so I leave and I get on 78 and all of a sudden, and I get on 287, and there I see these things in the sky.
Oh, no.
So I think, well, it's about 12:30 at night. I'm saying, well, maybe it's a shop, like lights.
Yeah.
Can't be. But, I'm looking and I'm saying, no, wait a minute. I said, I'm going to get into an accident. I said, if you are what I think you are, then be at my house when I get. Okay. So now it was 40-minute drive from where I was. So I come home. I couldn't wait to get out of the car. And I get out of the car, I look up and there's nothing there. And I'm so disappointed. And then my daughter comes out with my dog, which was a poodle. And she said, Ma, there's something in the sky. And I look up, there are 5 lights. And what they're doing is coming and circling around the house. And they're coming in a pattern and coming in, going out, coming in. And she's the one that told me, she goes, Ma, tell him to move. I was astounded. The dog was jumping on his hind legs, trying to reach these lights.
Wow.
It was wild. And so I told him to move, and they changed the entire pattern. And what they did is they went up, way up in the sky, and so that you can observe them. And then they changed the pattern. And then they formed that final oval, and then you saw them go up into the sky and disappear.
That's amazing.
So it was quite a experience.
I'm waiting now for you to tell us that when they come back now that they feel welcome when you open the door, one of them is standing there. I want to hear about that experience because they'll probably be standing right at your house. What was... Since I was before the movie Close Encounters. I think that was Carolan Come to the Light. Wasn't that Close Encounters of the Third Kind or something? The name Carolan is associated with the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm always teased about that, but I was born before the movie. So, but my second husband had called me a mechanical poltergeist, because I blew up the washer or the dryer, kind of stuff. He was kidding me. I was, I really just wanted a new washer and dryer. But what do you think of poltergeists? What do you think? Is that what people experience when they think they have a haunting? Is it more of a poltergeist than a haunting?
No.
Okay.
A poltergeist really is not a haunting.
Okay.
A poltergeist, you could have it, but generally what a poltergeist is the psychokinetic energy of the person's mind that's causing the activity in the house, not a ghost.
Okay.
And you'll have things flying across the room. You'll have appliances break. You'll have light bulbs blow out. But that is normally the psychokinetic energy of the person's mind. And you'll find a poltergeist agent, as we call it, in a house that has teenagers.
Right. I've heard that. I have read that.
New sexual energy and things like this. That's what is the poltergeist agent, or if there's a lot of emotional fighting and things going on.
Okay.
So though that could also be.
That's fascinating.
Going on. Your mind is powerful.
Yes.
So
now, everyone, we're almost at the end of our hour, which has been not long enough to visit with Jane Doherty. So check out JaneDoherty.com. Check out Jane Doherty on Facebook for her seances. She has one coming up with a couple of spots, so please check that out. And people are always asking for courses, and I can think of no one better, Jane, than yourself.
Thanks.
And fascinating hour to have spent with you. And thank you so much for taking time. I know you're a busy lady, and we look forward to hearing more. I can't wait. I hope you will come back in the Psychic Flow and
definitely
and share some more with us. And God bless you. Thank you so much. Everyone here enjoyed it.
You're very welcome.
Their foreheads are tingling. They've got M's on their palms. They're all riled up. And so I think you'll have some new visitors to your website and to your Facebook page.
Great. Okay.
Thank you so much. Everybody check us out on Rumble as well.
Yes. Very good. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jane. Good night now.
Bye-bye.
Become a Goldylocks Productions VIP patron. Receive exclusive access to live stream special and other epic perks. Join the Goldylocks Productions VIP community today.